Channels, you've mentioned the executive director of the Handmaids of the Divine Redeemer Sisters Foundation, a foundation that champions the rights of women and girls. Now, coming back to the topic that we are to discuss today, or the discussion we are having this morning, looking at sustainability and development of the women. What is it all about? For me, what I will say as far as the topic is concerned is the fact that if we talk about sustainability or development, women are the core people whom we should train. They are the center of sustainability. They are the center of development. Why did I say that? I say that because if you are able to educate the woman, if you are able to empower the woman, you are in turn empowering the family. This is because it is the women who takes care of the home. It is the women who train the children. It is the women who champion anything that development is all about as far as the child is involved. So if we are able to empower the woman or the girl child, it means that we are empowering community and family. But this has not been the case in Ghana, so to speak, because in Ghana we have lots of issues that are affecting women, issues of trafficking, issues of illegal migrants or migration, issues of abuse. And these are some of the things that we think we should really address. We should look at them by empowering the woman, by creating a kind of opportunities for the woman to build her so that she will be able to really support the family. So that will be my introductory remarks as we go along.
Fantastic, thank you. We'll turn next to Sister Terry Kirago. She is a theologian, but she also has a very keen interest in health. And she's going to talk some about how health relates to other things. You'll notice a theme in this, which is integration. And in the integrated, what does that mean? But it does mean this sense of bringing different things together. So, over to you.
Okay, thank you so much. Sister Teresa, and I am delighted to be here. And what I would like to talk about, basically, as we are talking about integral human development, is part of the Catholic Church and even part of the charism that many sisters are carrying along. Integral development is something that the church brought in 1967 by the document Populum Progressio on development of people. And even we have seen that the Catholic Church continue to focus on this. Pope Francis even created the dicastery for integral human development. And now bringing that aspect of integral human development in relation to my work, I have a passion for health. And when I'm even dealing with my capstone on in regard to integral human development, this is where I was able to deal with the holistic approach of a person, that is dealing with their physical element, dealing with the challenges that these women and girls are facing in regard to health, social aspect, because you find that there are also social things that affect their health, and also dealing with their spiritual aspect, because sometimes also they need that spiritual support as they are dealing with their health, and also sometimes this also intertwines with the political or even social cultural aspect that women, especially in Kenya, are facing, like their challenges, like the issue of FGM, that is female genital mutilation. And also these women, especially the women I was working with, were having the challenge of HIV and AIDS, and even issues of being poverty stricken, so they are not able even to acquire even proper health care that they need to make, and even challenges of even decision making, especially in regards to their own personal health. So we find that this of course leads to other challenges like maternal mortality. Many women are able to die even when giving childbirth because they don't have proper health care. And even now, there are also challenges of even poverty and even lack of basic needs. So even when we are talking about integral human development, is so much intertwined with health, what I have been doing about health empowerment. And even as I worked on my capstone project, basically I was wanted to do health education, but I realized it's more than just educating these women in regard to health. We had to tackle issue of financial support, we had to tackle issues of social support, and even mental health care is something that also comes in when we are talking about looking at the holistic approach of these women. And I think at the end of the capstone, I felt that these women were able to attain their dignity back. Because when we are talking about integral human development, it's like helping these women, especially women in Kenya, acquire their dignity, acquire a voice, so that they are able to even be able to make more informed decisions, especially in regard to their health. So I would say integral development and health is so much intertwined that you cannot only look at the physical aspect, you also need to consider other challenges that these women are facing, so that they can be able to bring the holistic, the flourishing of the entire person. I think that is the focus that I've been doing in my health empowerment of these women and girls.
Fantastic, thank you. And now Teresa Burungi, also from Kenya. You actually have a degree in social transformation, but I think what struck me in reading about it is your focus on community programs where the integration really comes into it. So how do you see women's role within the community, maybe the positive, but maybe also some of the challenges that they face?
Thank you. I'm glad to be here this morning. My name is Teresia Mwenye, belonging to the congregation of Our Lady of Charity of the Good Shepherd, also known as Sisters of the Good Shepherd. My greatest contribution towards women empowerment comes as a passion and, of course, a delight knowing that by empowering women, we commit to transformation of the society. Sisters of the Good Shepherd, internationally and locally, we so much focus and we are committed to women empowerment. Basically, our ministries, our focus is purely to address the issues that affect women at all levels. Just to mention, we have 6 position papers or position areas. The first one is girl child. We ensure that all children, especially girls, have been taken care of. They rise to the best level they could as a human person. The second aspect is women in prostitution. We realize that a number of women are challenged from whichever communities they come from. And some of our programs help to address the challenges that lead women to this kind of state. Then the third area is economic empowerment or economic justice. We ensure that women access work or opportunities that of course help them to earn justified living, and they are able to raise themselves on the same. Then we have the concept of human trafficking. Again, our programs address issues related to human trafficking. In most places, we see women moving from one place to another. And of course, the movement sometimes is not justified. And therefore, again, we have programs that support women that are victims of human trafficking. The fifth aspect is ecology, that of course deals with environmental care and stewardship. We ensure that the people we serve everywhere around the world have the best in terms of the environment that they live, and they are conscious of how they support the environment to, of course, to be sustained so that the future generations can also have a better place to live. And final one is about migration. Again, there are a lot of challenges or issues that are related to migration. And therefore, our programs also focus on supporting women particularly and children to to find themselves or to grow in places despite having been born from one place and moved to another person, they still find home, they still find peace despite the challenges related to migration. So in the process or in the commitment to addressing these 6 basic areas as a mission, we are committed to see that there is integral human development, that it is part and parcel of everything, that a woman or a person cannot grow spiritually without, of course, being conscious of the culture. They cannot grow culturally without being conscious of the psychosocial or psychological aspect. They need to be educated. That means the intellectual aspect comes in. There is the aspect, of course, that is human relations, that is the communal part of it. So for us, integral human development and faith is part and parcel of our mission. It's a charism and it's a way of life, and therefore we cannot engage in any community activity, whether locally or internationally, without looking at a human person as a whole. To think of some of the, of course, blessings or some of the successes we've had in the past, we have programs that are purely related to supporting the women from the margins. We have particularly skills development programs where we have centers for education. We have rescue places where we get women from different places who find themselves in challenging situations, and they are put in homes, in shelters, in safe places. And by the end of a period of time, this person has had education. They have had the basic needs that that will help them to stay independent. And then some are helped to begin businesses, for example, small-scale businesses in the local communities. We also engage in activities, of course, that are geared towards developing their capacity in terms of leadership. That we have programs that deal specifically with the leadership development for women in communities, and this comes through an organized model, mostly we call community self-help groups. So in most of the communities, women are organized in self-help groups where they have their own activities, they run themselves, they manage themselves. And at a large scale, in some communities, they have already formed them as associations. For example, we have cases where we represent the 3 countries in the province where I work, Kenya, Uganda, and DRC, where some of the women have organized themselves in major associations. And in these associations, they have common programs, projects, as well as individual programs that lead them, of course, towards their own well-being, growth towards their well-being. And on the side of the children, we realize that these mothers, in their challenges, they have children. And some of them are at home doing nothing at times. So what we do, we ensure that these children are provided with the education through scholarship programs. And these scholarship programs, of course, at the end of it, they support the growth of the child. And then we have children who have no any way to get their medical care. And then again, this aspect of provision for medical care comes in. So in simple, our programs geared towards holistic formation of a human person. We also so much partner with other organizations, and particularly with other congregations. If I may name, we have a program right now running for 4 congregations, that is our Good Shepherd Sisters, Salesian Sisters, Combined Sisters, and Our Lady of the Nations. This is a project that is geared towards capacity building for children and youth from the communities. Thank you.
Well, it's always heartening to hear stories of success, and you can see the transformation that can happen. We now go to Sister Birgitta Mwawasi. I think I got that right. She also is very much involved with thinking about how the different aspects of the lives and of girls and women keep them back, but also let them move forward. So she also is from Kenya.
Yes. Good morning, everyone. I'm Sister Brigitta. and I belong to an indigenous congregation in Kenya called the Sisters of St. Joseph of the Archdiocese of Mombasa in the coast part of Kenya. I have been a Catholic sister for the last 32 years, and I've had many lives within those 32 years. And one of them earlier is a young sister. I worked in a program that is on human rights, and this was under the Association of Sisterhoods of Kenya. And I had the opportunity of meeting and mingling with many different communities in the country, different communities, especially women and girls. And I came firsthand with the realization of the marginalization of women, and not only women, but also some societies within my own country. Because many times when we talk about Kenya, we think about Nairobi, Mombasa, and the big cities, but we rarely think about the villages and what happens in the villages. We have an education system in Kenya, and from 2002, we had what we call universal primary education, free primary education. And when that came into effect, many children were able to go to school, but within a short time, so many of them dropped out. And one of the questions that many people asked, what was happening? That Kenya has a policy of free education, but again, so many children, especially girls, we are dropping out. And these are some of the things as I worked in the Commission for Justice and Peace. I kept asking myself, because wherever I went, I asked myself, why are these situations the way they are? There was a lot of violence in some areas in the country. I witnessed firsthand violence against women. And I remember one specific case where this woman would come to the hospital where my sisters were working, and she would always say she had bruises. And one time I questioned, why do you have bruises? And she said, I fell. And the place, there were no, it wasn't hilly like Georgetown. It was a flat place. And I was like, where do you fall and where are they supposed to hit you? I had no idea that there existed violence against women at the family level. So the husband would batter her on a daily basis, but for her to protect the image of the husband, she would go to the hospital and pretend she failed. And at one point, I think maybe there was an activist in me, which I didn't know. I was like, we're not going to treat you, because if you keep falling, we need to know where exactly you fall so that we deal with that obstacle, so that you don't keep falling. You have young kids who are depending on you. And this lady was like, sister, I don't know what to do. I told her, we are not going to treat you, you need to understand. And eventually she was able to reveal that it was the husband. I said, now if it's the husband, you need to come here with him. And she was afraid what would happen to her. I told her, don't tell her what you told me. I just want to talk to him, because it's a gentleman I knew who was very humble, a gentleman by all standards. And eventually, when I got to meet the husband, and I told him, your wife comes, always she falls, and I don't know where she falls. And and he also had to admit, and I told him, this is a police case. We need to do it. If you continue battering your wife, I'm going to take you to the police, and we are not going to treat the wife. But to cut the long story short, eventually he was like, oh, I apologize. I said, don't apologize to us, apologize to your wife. But some months later, the wife came back to say, sister, you saved me. I've never been hit again. They said, if you continued to say, you continued to say that you failed, you could have ended dead. And that is the story of many women. But there is this culture of silence where violence against women is concerned. And moving also through different communities, I came to a community where women had no say whatsoever in issues that affected them. And in case the men would sit like in an elders meeting and decide for the women, and the women had to stand afar if they had an issue to present to the team, and whatever would have been decided on their behalf, then they had to take it. And one time I had to go to this community, and we were going to talk about women's rights. And one of the questions one of the elders asked, sister, who um, who um, who is the person that violates women's rights? And I didn't know how to answer it, but I said, let's look at our cultures. So we went through our cultures, their practices and beliefs that may look very normal to the people of the place, but which kind of might oppress women. And we looked at several practices like wife inheritance, like paying dowry. Probably traditionally, when they paid dowry, it was as an as a appreciation to the family that had raised a girl, and now you are taking this girl as a wife into your home. But now it turned to be like, when I pay dowry, it's like I'm buying you, so you are my property. And the men were probably saying, sister, we have the right to even discipline the woman when she makes a mistake, because we own them, just like I own my cows, I own my farm, and I own the women. I asked a question. So when the men err, who disciplines them? Because you discipline the women. Do the women also discipline you? And fortunately, in this gathering, there are both men and women, and the women were like sister, and the men would told me, no, men don't make mistakes. It's only the women who do. And the women were, excuse us, sister. In fact, they make more mistakes than we do. There are other issues within their culture that made sure that girls that got pregnant outside of wedlock in that community were ostracized, which was very unfortunate. So we went into deeply looking at the issues. Why? Because it takes two to tango, doesn't it? And when you have a girl who is pregnant, you have a responsible man. So what happens to the men? And the men were like, for the men, we cleanse them, perform some rituals, and they're allowed into the community. But for the girls, remaining in the community is a bad omen. And I was like, is that really? And you are saying there's no oppression of women? Are they not all children of the same family? And those are some of the issues. So we started, I said, maybe we have a lot of work to do educating the communities, helping the communities to understand the dignity of the human person, but the rights of both men and women. And I took a lot of trained a lot of men and women, communities especially. And at some point, I felt overwhelmed. And I was like, there are lots of non-governmental organizations working on the same issues that we're dealing with. Even the government has structures, has programs working on these issues. There are lots of groups working on these issues. And yet, every time I went to a community, it was as if there had been nothing happening in that community. I started maybe reading some things like the Dead Aid by Advocacy, and I was asking myself, maybe there's more that we need to do. And it's not only about violence against women, but there are more issues about what makes a woman who is married, who has children, who is beaten every day, not speak up or remain in that situation for so long. And so I looked at most of these communities, probably education. The women had not been to school. They depended economically on the husbands. And also our cultures, when you are married and you go back to your home, they feel like As women, you don't own anything, neither at home nor at your husband's place. So at the end of the day, what happens? The woman has to be dependent. And when we talk to the family, about the family, it's the woman who keeps the family, bringing up the children, training them, educating them, disciplining them, giving the children values. Yet this woman, at the end of the day, is hopeless. I remember being in one training or one meeting where we had both religious Christian Muslims and non-Muslim women. And one of the women told me, sister, after talking about these practices in our religions, in our societies, the Quran, according to her, the Quran allows us, the Muslim men, to have 4 women. So I said, okay, what do you feel about it? She said, outwardly we pretend that it's okay, but no woman would want to maybe share a husband with another, even if it's in the Quran. And I was like, okay, this is true, because there were many women, and I said, who promotes culture? It's women. Suppose no woman said that. Suppose no woman accepted to be the second wife. What would happen? That culture would die a natural death, isn't it? So for me, I thought maybe there is a lot we need to connect, to look at the interaction between the many issues that we are dealing with in the society. Not only violence against women, but when we look at human rights, we look at economic empowerment. When we are talking about development, many times we just look at the economic component of development, but we've not we've not looked at the different aspects of development. And I think integral human development is very important for us, so that we are able to link them and to see how are we going to ensure that this human person, this woman, this girl grows or is developed integral all around, spiritually, physically, emotionally, economically, etc. And so this is something that I still feel very passionate about. Thank you.
I think one of the words we hear quite often is the passion that these colleagues, these women bring. But I do want to go back to one thing you said. One of the statistics that I think has become clearer in really the past decade or two is how much domestic violence there is in the world. And to me, one of the saddest statistics, which you reflected, is that 50% of women who experience this have never mentioned it to a living soul. It's a very lonely issue and a very lonely problem all over the world in any society. And now we come to Sister Kasalia Namikoye, also from Kenya, but this sister has a very broad experience because she oversees the system in many ways. And maybe you can tell us how you see the situation and some of the priorities and some of the areas that interest you both personally, but also in the role of your responsibilities.
Thank you, Catherine. Good morning.
Good morning.
I'm Sister Baselisa Namikoye, as has been highlighted. I work for the Association of Sisters of Kenya. I'm a member of the Little Sisters of St. Francis. Within the umbrella body of the women religious in Kenya, we have about 177 congregations. And within this congregation, our main mission in Kenya is to foster mutual support in the area of formation for authentic witness, as we work very closely with the stakeholders. And our focus is mainly on our 4 strategic priorities, and basically number 2 is on the outreach programs. So the women religious have come together in Kenya to address the issues that affect our communities. And within the association, or the umbrella body of the women religious, focusing on the outreach programs, it addresses the challenges that are within the communities, which are all anchored on the Sustainable Development Goals. And specifically, we focus on development goal number 5, where we look at the gender equality. And for us as an association, we look at the partnerships that come with it. That is goal number 17, where we get the strength when we are partnering together as women religious for synergy. And basically, these congregations have different charisms. When we talk about the charism, this defines the unique spiritual orientation of the congregations, or the way of life of the communities, the way they live and the way they do their work, and specifically addressing the issues of the poor. The poor here are the marginalized and the disadvantaged, the women within the communities. As the Sister Bridget highlighted about the commission where she worked before, under the Justice and Peace Commission that addresses the injustices in our community or in our society in Kenya, where we move from across the country looking at these injustices, and specifically the injustices, the discrimination, the gender-based violence that the women experience in Kenya. Looking at our constitution, 2010 constitution, that gives the mandate for the women to own the properties, it's not really something that is practical, that looking at it. So women face so many problems. So the association has that holistic approach for the human development to look into it. How do we support the women? So the association supports the congregations within their specific areas where they are living in those communities as they support the women wherever they are living. There are so many things that happen across the country, and the association comes in as handy in terms of supporting the congregations that address the key issues that affect the women within the vicinity where they are living. And as a passion, looking at the women not owning property and what have you. Our passion specifically, or as an individual person, is to look at how can women access credit? How can the women access finances, so that together they're addressing the community? So the passion that I have looking at my capstone project is to support these women to come together and form the silk groups. When we talk about the silk groups, is to serve internally and lend the community. So for synergy, this community come together, these women form groups that come together so that they can have something, they can have strength together. Unity is strength. So working in isolation, you may not achieve much, but working in a group, you are able to achieve a lot. So these women come together and give the support. So as women religious, basically is to journey with these women holistically, not just helping them to have access to this microcredit financing, but also to provide some psychosocial support to these women, journeying with them to ensure that their problems are addressed. You'll find that most of the women, some of them are widows, some of them are teen mothers who have been affected because of the many problems that they experience in the society. And specifically what the association does is also to do the advocacy, speaking for the voiceless. We become the voice of these women and girls who are within our communities to ensure that they are able to access some of these services that are not able to access as women. As I said in the beginning, that women don't own properties. So through this support that we provide from the association, the women are able to access a few resources that the association is able to support them. And personally, I have the passion to champion and advocate for the rights and the protection of these women. And on several occasions, we have walked into the gender office just to ensure that what is the government doing in terms of the policy to help address the issues of the women. As we have had previously, we have had so many femicides happening in the country affecting the women. So the association comes together to address these issues that affect the women. And we have formed a lot of partnership with the like-minded organization just to ensure that the issues of women are addressed. And as an association, we continue championing from time to time to ensure that the issues of girls and women are specifically addressed in the programs that we do. So we have quite a number of programs that we do within the association. We have the gender desk that helps to address the issues of the gender, ensuring that the women take up leadership within the country, that they go for these elective positions, because as you realize that our political landscape within the country, the men will always take the upper hand. So as an association, we help and support the women to go for those elective positions so that they can fight also for the rights and protection of the girl and the women on their own as women. Otherwise, you will not really find within our parliaments where men are talking about the women issues. We're missing the women to talk about the women. We have vocal leaders who speak about the women issues within the parliament, talking about the policies. And we have formed groups where we are able to channel through those groups to ensure that we are facing and we are focusing on supporting the issues or the matters women.
One thing that we've found with this cohort is that they are, shall we say, attuned to politics. And to the way things happen. So maybe in the second round, we can get your ideas of what needs to happen and what we should do about it. And I'm going to put the we collectively. So maybe I'll start with you, Sister again.
Okay, so what we can do collectively is exactly what we have started here with the capstone project. Because if we are talking of sustaining the woman and developing her, that is the things that we are doing. And in my case, working with trafficked women and children, trying to kind of give them some capacity building and going to the schools to educate the children, the school children, about the negative effects of just abandoning your school and run, that you are going to look for a greener pasture somewhere in Europe or Asia or wherever it is. If we are able to tackle the core of these girls, then we'll be able to address the issue of kind of exposing them to the risks of being trafficked, the risks of migrating to a place that you have no idea about. And I think that in Africa, and especially in Ghana, the government can do more by engaging with agencies, government agencies, or in the case of trafficking and migrating, security agencies, and try to give them capacity building, trying to train them so that they know the tools to use to support the people that they meet during our borders, the African borders. There's one thing we can do, and another thing is also for us to use the capstone project to make the women feel important, make them feel that yes, they can also do something. Haven't tried to equip them, haven't tried to create an awareness about the negative effects of things that are happening. That will also help them to be able to embrace the world and not to think that it is, for want of a better word, only the men who can support them. When you actually train a women, there are a lot of things that they can do. As I said from the beginning, training the children at home and taking care of the family. So these are some of the things that we can do to address the issue. That will help us to maintain the sustainable or the sustainability of the girl from the home and from what we are doing as
Yeah.
religious sisters.
Yeah, I think the basic message is there's a lot that can be done, but that it isn't necessarily being done right now. Sister Terry, I know one of the things we talked about, and something I don't think that's been mentioned here yet, is the legacy of the COVID pandemic. And one of the things that we all saw coming and that happened was so many girls dropped out of school. And how you talk about working with girls who are dropouts. How do you see, what can we do to help them?
Okay, what I would say during pandemic, and it's still affecting us even today because of the economic impact that is affecting the entire world. What I would suggest for these girls is financial support. Try to see how we can be able to financial support them to be able to go back to school. And then I would say like also supporting their parents, especially their mothers, through economic empowerment, because you find some of these girls who are affected are those who come from low-income families. So if we can be able to support their parents economically to be able to continue with their business, especially those who are doing small-scale businesses, you find most of them were shut after COVID. So economic empowerment, and I think also the government also I would say has a bigger hand to ensure there is that provision of free education. We used to have it in Kenya, provision of primary education. It used to be free. I think these are some of the things that the government needs to look back and provision of that education. And then some of these girls who maybe we can also look at also other skills like income generating that we can be able to provide for them, because some of them already dropped, they may not be willing to go back. If we can see for skills that they can be able to be able to get something for their continuity. And then even our sisters in many of our projects where we have like we have polytechnics, these are hands-on skills that these girls can be able to learn, issues like dressmaking, tailoring, and what have you, so that they can still be able to continue with their livelihood. So those are some of the things that I would say, but it will need collaborative effort both from the church and even from the government, so that we can be able to give these back girls back to be able to have their dignity and the support that they need economically.
Sister Teresa, you talked a lot about community, and including the negative things like forcing women to marry, and but also the positive. What if I'm, as we say sometimes, I'm your fairy godmother and I wave my wand, what do you think should happen? What can happen?
Thank you, Catherine. Talking about communities and what can be done, there is so much which could be done. As said earlier, women has a greater influence in the sustainability of our economies and our society today. However, unfortunately, they lack the basic skills, the capacity to raise them to the level that they feel they are financially independent. Their voices can be heard. So we may need to build from what she has just said, build synergies, and particularly as religious women, religious institutions, working in our different countries, and particularly in Kenya, Ghana, where we represent, and some of other countries, to see that our institutions are holistic in nature, that they provide the skills that are relevant towards the empowerment of women, issues around advocacy. To address a number of problems, definitely there is need for advocacy. Women do not know their rights, and if they know, they still do not have that agency ability to make decisions fully because of what the culture has put them there. We live, sorry to put it in very patriarchal society still. And for that reason, despite having a certain level of women being empowered to rise up, there is still a feeling that there is somebody else who has to make a decision for me. And therefore, for us to build the capacity of women is a necessity in the communities we live today, starting from the young generation. Because unless the current generation grows or mindset is really shifted, then we risk continuing a similar scenario whereby the women still grow in the same level that our mothers behaved like this, and therefore the community has put these laws and regulations to guide us. Therefore, we need to network, to partner a lot with the gender desks or gender ministries that are related to gender, so that we can influence policy changes. Or in this case, of course, there are opportunities whereby we can come together as institutions, come up with statements and present these statements on real issues that affect women in our community. For example, retrogressive cultural practices that we have heard and seen in our communities, they have a very negative impact to the life of the young children. For example, one of us mentioned the issues around female genital mutilation. A young girl of 10 years is already subjected to this, and her mind is that after I go through this cultural practice, cultural passage ritual, then the next thing is to get married. So already this young child knows that my life is all about this. How do we as change makers in our community today try to help this society to begin changing, that this young girl has to really think now or to relearn something different after what has been done to them? How do we bring the mother, the father, the community that believes that this is the only way to slowly a transformation of the whole system, whereby everybody is brought on board so that things can change? But of course, it demands effort, it demands common support, and a lot of course, policy changes around this. Thank you.
I'm going to open this for questions in a few minutes, so please, please get ready. I warn you, I'll call on you if you don't. But Sister Brigitte, what about you? You talked about a lot of changes that are needed. What would you give the priority to? What is your dream of the changes that might happen in the next year or two?
So many changes need to happen, but I'm going to be brief. One of the things when we said maybe we are all inclined to politics, and I think I laughed because one of the questions that has always been put to me: you are a Catholic sister and you are political. I'm like, no, I'm not political, I'm religious. Because when a number of times we've organized trainings, especially on civic education, even to the sisters, and the first question they ask me, sister, is it spiritual? And whenever I say no, it's civic education, they say, we are not coming. Next time you organize something spiritual, then we'll come. And I kept asking myself, where do we draw a line between what is spiritual and what is not? Because we are one integral person. And this has really had a toll on me. And I think when we talk about the Catholic social thought, we are thinking about the integral human person. And these are the things that we really need to look at, because if we talk about politics, then as religious, Jesus was the greatest politician. Yes, and we cannot talk about development if we don't talk about social justice. And I think these are some of the things when we talk about financial option for the poor. These are some of the things that we have to think about. And where do we begin? I think we've already begun, and this is I'm very happy that we are talking about this at Georgetown University, because one of the things also has always disturbed me. I've always asked myself, as a practitioner, where is the missing link? I think we have lots of practitioners and we have lots of theorists on the other side, and sometimes there's no meeting place. And I think institutions like Georgetown University and other universities, what you are doing, bring together and practitioners practitioners and theorists would help us probably come up with ideas and shape the future. For me, it's about coming up with programs that are more inclusive, so that the programs that are gender inclusive, education of the people, not only the school education, but also to form the conscience of the current generation with regard to the issues affecting the society. Whatever happens in Africa affects what happens in Europe and probably in the US and vice versa. When we are talking about issues of global warming or climate change, we are not thinking about one part of the globe. And as Africans, one of the things we say, I am because you are. That is the Ubuntu philosophy. We don't grow in isolation. We are not an island. We live because there are other people. And I think already Georgetown and the Women Faith Leaders Fellowship is holding the hands of these religious who are working directly with the people to ensure that we come up with practical solutions. The other one is about when we talk about technology, maybe that is one of the areas that technology, how is technology being used today? Probably I'm sure we are using technology to help bring out some of these issues that are coming, and also to educate, like when we are talking about linking all these issues of forming the conscience, the issues about, for example, refugees, trafficking in persons, which we just had, wars, and as development persons or partners, we really need to ask ourselves the hard questions, questions that will enable us probably to go deeper into the root causes. And in connection to the SDGs, especially goal number 17, partnerships for the other goals. And I think this is what we are doing. Currently, I'm sitting here as Sister Brigitta, but also putting on the hat of the Association of Consecrated Women in Eastern and Central Africa. These are national conferences of 10 English-speaking country national associations, ASK, that is Kenya being one of them, but we also have other countries, Uganda, Ethiopia, Eritrea, Zambia, Zimbabwe, Tanzania, Sudan, and South Sudan. So that the sisters don't ask the question, is it spiritual? What we are doing is forming the conscience of the sisters, because sisters work directly with the people. In schools, you find them in education, in health, you find them in different areas. And so for them not to go there as evangelizers, but to know that they're part, not only part of the society, but they are change makers, they are agents of change. And once they understand this, they are able to bring that change at the level where they are, be it in schools, be it in hospitals, be it in the society. And so one of the things that we're doing is help sisters understand one, okay, so form them, because we can't have sisters, we can't send out the sisters who don't understand the issues, because they need to address and help the people address those issues. But we are also forming sisters at the leadership level, so that leaders of congregations understand that congregations and institutions run by the congregations are able to also look at these issues and look at the person as an integral person. And finally, sustainability of the efforts that we are making. Sometimes some of my colleagues mentioned funding, which is also a big issue. But when we have probably what this fellowship is doing, has supported each one of us with our capstones, and the capstones are really touching and helping the people on the ground, and they are changing their lives. It may look small, but what is happening on the ground is huge. Because one of the things that what I'm doing with the girls in the northern part of Kenya, girls who have no access to school completely, girls who have not seen a house like this before, and you are giving them hands-on skills to change their lives and their families, and to give them hope for the future, and to enable them dream and dream big. I think there's a lot to be done, and I really am appreciative for this opportunity.
I think you've given us a good agenda. Sister Prasad, I think the number that really sticks with me is 177 different congregations, and you also talked about voice. So what is your sense of what is the voice that's most needed now? In this, we're at a very pivotal moment when there's a lot of transformation happening in Kenya, a lot happening in Ghana, a lot happening in the United States, and the whole world of aid. So what is the voice that you think the congregations collectively, but together with others, can bring?
I think you, Catherine, just to contribute from what the rest have, the panelists have said about being the voice of the voiceless. For us women religious, it's about formation from where we are coming from our families. And I think to address some of these problems is where the congregations are living within communities to carry on the positive parenting, because that is the source of all the problems that we have, the challenges that the families face are the ones that bring all these problems and challenges that there is. So that positive parenting that we need within our communities by working in collaboration with the church structures that have been set within our church will help us address some of these problems that we encounter. Most of our constitutions as congregations, they talk about reading signs of time. So things have changed very fast, and as congregations to look into our charisms. What does our charism say? As I say, this is spiritual orientation or the way of life for communities, is to look and address and see what else can a congregation do in order to address the community problems that are incurring most of the time. And so just to contribute and add on the voice of what others have said, the women religious are the voice, because you are born in a very retrogressive culture. You know, we don't choose where to be born. You find yourself in that community. So if you find yourself in that retrogressive culture, what are we supposed to do? The community, the sisters living in those communities, have to bring the positive, to sensitize the parents, to sensitize the community on the right way of, the holistic way of bringing up the children or the families, so that they are able to have access to the education, they are able to have access to the services that are provided within the community. At some point last year, I went to the northern part of Kenya, and that's where a lot of retrogressive cultures is found. You find a girl of 12 years already is put with the beads around the neck. So, and I was a little bit curious to ask, like, what is it? This girl has already been appointed for marriage. Somebody somewhere already is preparing to marry this girl. And there are several of them within those that locality. So the sisters within that community are to carry on this positive parenting to ensure that these girls have access to education. Imagine you find yourself in that kind of sector, prepared to marry a man of 70 years. You are 12, or you are 13 or 14, and you are not the first, you are actually the fifth or the sixth wife within that community. So if the sisters can carry on this and bring the voice to help these young girls grow up in a very good environment. The other thing to be the voice is to advocate for the policies that they support the girls and women within these communities, and that's why we do encourage a lot of women to take up leadership roles so that they can be the voice. Through us, we push or we talk and advocate this through the women that are leaders so that they can advocate for the policies, as we also partner with other like-minded organizations to ensure that there is a voice for these women, and also have continuous mentorship in terms of leadership, that we are able to speak out and help the women to link them up to the financial provider, so that they also can have the economic independence without relying so much on other people or the men. And also, lastly, I will talk about the soft skills. What the women religious are doing right now is to have the vocational schools, the vocational where the technical vocational schools where they bring skills to these the women and the teen mothers by providing the space. You see, if you are a teen mother at home, of course there's that stigma within the community where you are living in. So the sisters to create the space for these mothers, for these teen mothers and the women, so that they are given the soft skill. You may not have had access to education, but the sisters providing that space enables you to get the skill that can help you do something that is going to help you become economically independent without relying so much. And then you are able to provide for the young children that are growing up. So there's quite a lot I think that we can talk about. And the other thing is about civic education that we continuously do to empower the women and the communities just to be familiar of what their leaders should be doing for them, because they have provided the tax, and the money coming is not really a token, but it is just what belongs to them. So we do a lot of, the sisters continue doing a lot of civic education to ensure that the communities understand their role and they understand also their entitlements and the rights that there is to help them.
I don't think any of us will forget the 12-year-old with beads that symbolize that she's being married to a 70-year-old. So I think that the power of stories is a very important element, but it is also the link between the stories and the notion of what's fair and what's just and what is right, and the translation into policies. Unfortunately, we don't have very much time, but we have a few minutes to hear some of your questions. So does anyone have any questions or comments? Yes. Why don't you quickly introduce yourself and
hello everyone, my name is Josie Krieger. I'm a second-year master's student in the Global Human Development Program. I've also been working with Professor Marshall on human trafficking and the role of faith and development dialogue. First, thank you all so much for being here and sharing your stories and your insights on this incredible panel. My question is about your capstone process and the fellowship generally. I'm curious, you all clearly have this expertise in the area in which you're working, and you've been doing incredible work for so long. But in the implementation of your capstone, is there anything that really surprised you, good or bad? And what did you learn? Something unexpected that you learned?
thank you. Any other questions? Because that could take up the next 6 hours. I don't know, Sister Rosemary, do you just want to say one word so people know who you are? This is a veteran from the first cohort.
I'm Sister Rosemary from Uganda, but I'm now teaching at Oklahoma University in the College of International Studies, and I'm teaching international development and security. And we've got students from Oklahoma University linked with students, they are intertwined also with students in Uganda. So we're trying to develop a study abroad program where we'll take students from Oklahoma to go to Uganda, and hopefully we can get students from Uganda coming here too one day. But I am very happy to hear about all what is going on and listening to everybody. I'm trying to think that there's actually a certain gap which many times we don't address in all what we're talking right now. We may be addressing it, but we are not focusing so much. And it is especially the development of mental health. because mental health is very, very important. And also when we talk, like Sister was emphasizing so much about women accepting to be even in gender-based violence, sometimes they're the ones promoting it. I found out that many times women are helpless. They think that's all what they have because they are tied to it. They know that a man must be the one supporting them for the rest of their lives, to the point that they can say, I'm not going anywhere, even if I'm going to be mistreated, I will die here because of my children. It's because they don't have other options. So it is very important for us to empower women, to let them know that they have other options. And that means we also have to bring in economic development. We have to put resources which are normally owned by men in their hands. And for me, that is something I'm following up on now, to make sure that we fight gender-based violence using the tools which are already in our tradition, that men want to have the resources. So let us try to steal these resources from men and put them in women's hands in order to bring the families together. Because in that family we have men, we have sons, we have daughters, so let them work together. That's my little contribution to what you have been saying. Thank you.
Well, Sister Rosemary is working in one of the most difficult areas in the world, in northern Uganda, in Gulu, and she has remarkable success and is, as I said, a veteran of the program. Now, you were asked a question by Josie, which we don't have time to answer because it will take 6 hours, but we will be talking about it this afternoon. But I don't know if anyone has a couple of very quick, I don't think we have time for another question, I'm afraid. I was told we have to end at 11:15 and it is now 11:14. But just any quick sort of surprises that have already come to you that you could call learning. Does anyone want to jump in with one or two?
Okay, for me, the surprise that I found in is the need of working with the community. Yeah, because as I began my capstone project, I thought I would do it all alone, and I realized I cannot go far. So the partnership with the community, I realized is something that really needed to be done. And just a second one is the issue that Sister Rosemary is talking about, the issue of mental health. I also realized it's also a greater issue, because I thought of addressing maybe the communicable and non-communicable diseases in my capstone on health, but I realized the women were facing a lot of mental health issues, beginning again back from COVID and what they are going through in the area where they are working. So those are some of the surprises. But also another surprise is the support that I also received from the area leadership. I think that's also surprised me. Sometimes we may think they are very rigid, but the moment we approach them, I was amazed by the support they can give us. It's only that sometimes we are afraid to reach out to them, but they are willing to give that support.
Well, we're going to be spending the afternoon hearing about the status of the capstone projects, and we'll keep Josie's question very much in mind, because I'm afraid that we need to bring this session to a close. I think that the thing that is very much in my mind, apart from the Ubuntu theme of I am because you are, which is very much a theme that we're trying to take to heart, the notion of the preferential option for the poor. What does that mean? What does leave no one behind mean? How do you actually make that work? And then the sense of the integration, the bringing the integral, the integrated, bringing all the different silos together, which seems to be an imperative of our times, and keeping the focus on the human. Even when we're very technical and data focused, to keep the focus on the human and on development, with this sense that a couple of you have mentioned of hope and the potential, which I think is one of our messages from international development, that we have lived an extraordinary time that's exemplified in 20 or 30 extra years of life for all of us. Most of us would not be living still in an earlier age. and this sense of what is possible and how can we make the possible happen. So I think that that's what brings us all together. And I want to thank the remarkable sisters who have spoken, I think, very much from the heart as well as from the mind. And this is just the beginning. And we look forward to working together with all of you as we go forward. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone, and if you're able, you're invited to stick around for a few minutes after we had some coffee and